All right, so we're recording now.
Yeah, I see.
Are we recording? Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're recording. All right, so I just want to thank everyone for coming to the Kink 101 series. My name is Jay Wolfspirit. I'm a life coach and kink educator. Most of you already know me. We're here at the Kinky Bed and Bondage in Winchester, Virginia. And we're here with the owners of the Kinky Bed and Bondage, Bright Eyes, and her wonderful husband. I'm also here with the illustrious Diosa. And I'm also here with Kinky and Cultured. You guys want to quick say hi?
Hi there.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
You can hear us. That's good.
So Kink and Culture is coming in virtually. She's currently out and about exploring and doing her thing. So we're going to roll right in here. So this is what we're going to go over today. So the Kink 101 series is a series for basically just learning a little bit and having an open discussion. It's an opportunity for new kinksters and seasoned kinksters to basically come in and just have discussions and learn about different kink topics. If you have a topic that you want to learn more in detail, or you think is an interesting topic that you want to learn about, just send me an email or send me a message, and we'll do a little research, we'll get some information on it, and we'll go a little bit more in depth in it. Today, what we're going to be discussing is kink as a sexual orientation, basically, and how it's broken down with like kind of the three main kink orientations, and then all pretty much the roles in kink fall under those. We do have some class rules we're going to talk about today, and then once we kind of go over just a little bit of a topic discussion, we're going to go into just open discussions with our panel today, and that's the three people I kind of already introduced you to. That's a dominant, a submissive, and a switch. And we're just going to open up to questions and just roll kind of with the flow. This class is slotted for 2 hours. I don't think we'll go that long. Maybe we will, we'll see. But we'll go as long as the flow goes well and there's questions and, you know, it's being productive. We're lighthearted, so ask questions at any time. We do have a zero tolerance policy for any type of lewd or crude behavior, any type of harassment. We don't. I know. We know some people why we have that rule, Jared. But anyway, just kidding, buddy. So let's roll through. So we already talked about me. We talked about the zero judgment. And like I said, it's open discussion. Go ahead and just ask anytime. And the big thing with anything that I do, any of the programs, the same thing with Diosa, just have an open mind and a kind heart. Approach everything with, okay, this might not be my kink, but I understand people are wired differently, and I'm going to be open-minded about it and not judgmental. And that's it. Any questions? Oh, someone got booted out. I'm going to let them back in. Let's see here.
I tried. It went away too fast.
I saw the word hoe. I was like, what is it saying?
All right, Sarah, you back in?
Hi, new Paul.
Yes, I am.
Tori, you back in?
Yes, I am.
All right, very good. So yeah, anyone that gets booted out, just kind of send me a message and we'll get you back in. So real quick, we'll go around and we'll introduce kind of who our people are here today. Jay Wolfspirit, and I've been involved in kink for about 15 years. I started off as a dom, found my way into primal, and basically from there, just discovered a whole new world. Changed my life, had some great mentors coming up, and a lot of what I do with the life coaching and the kink education stuff is really just kind of giving back, kind of paying it forward to those who helped me. So I'll pass it over to Bright Eyes.
Bright Eyes. My husband and I have been in the kink probably about 6 years, 8 years, and play with dominant and switch, but mostly my own personal satisfaction, bottom, submissive, and exploring. That's us. Diosa.
How do you?
This is,
Figure it out.
yeah. This is Mike, Kiki B&B. I'm a top, a dom. I've found my way into it probably about 3 years ago. Bright Eyes found hers sooner than I did, so and I found that I actually enjoyed it once I started doing it after much
Much convincing.
much convincing. Yeah.
There is a funny story behind it.
It is, yeah. Go ahead.
You're damn good at Florentine.
Yes. I learned pretty quick.
Yeah. You have a choice. Somebody talks from the bottom.
Ball gag.
Yeah. I'm Diosa, and I've always been this, but I was able to embrace it the last 6 or 8 years or so, and decided to create my own play space where I could put the toys that were accumulating in my house. There's too much in my home. So with the help of Bright Eyes and Mike, we were able to move some of that stuff over and have friends. I found that I'm a dominant. When I try to be submissive, that doesn't work. Yeah, and I end up laughing through the experience. But met some great people here, always open to learning, but always willing to instruct as well and help others to feel comfortable. We want this to be a free space to just come and enjoy and try something new.
Perfect. So I'll open up to the students. What do you say? Oh, Kinky and Cultured. Introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hey, so I'm Kinky and Cultured. I'm a bit of a free spirit and I like to travel a lot internationally. So I found the whole scene a few years ago when I was backpacking by myself and I met some really, really cool people. I've kind of delved more and more into it. So I got into the scene a tiny bit in DC, and then I was lucky enough to meet this fantastic group of people locally. So yeah, I'm still exploring. I identify as a switch, but I like to test that a bit, and yeah.
Borderline brat, just saying.
Only for you. And maybe Mike too, but only for you.
I'd just like to open it up now to the floor of the students. So let's go around. If you just want to, real quick, 1 or 2 minutes, introduce yourself. I just want to see if I have anyone who needs to be added in. I think Sarah just left. Let's see here. It doesn't look like it. I think we're okay. So who's that bear? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Jared. I go by Who's That Bear in the kink world. I've been doing this for, well, about 10 years now. I got involved in kink and BDSM via ethical non-monogamy, as I'm sure a lot of folks have. And yeah, not originally from the area. Grew up in the New England area, and I did a lot of workshops and organizing up there. I like to think of myself as just a slutty samurai. I go where needed.
Nice. Thank you, Jared. Paul Marie. Paul and Marie.
Sorry, we had to unmute. So, Marie, I've been in the community since 2016. I kind of went in full force, I guess. Not full force, but kind of. I started off with Munches, meeting people. Started with vet and meeting people from there, and had a few play partners, a few sirs. Started off as a sub, been through pet, currently more primal. Yeah.
And I've been curious about the community for years. I just started less than a year ago, maybe 6 months fully getting into it. But I've always been curious about it, wanting to learn for years, reading on my own, and now I'm finding other people actually do it in real life. So it's kind of fun.
Thank you, Paul. Mistress K.
Hello. Well, I've been involved in kink in probably about 2 years as far as like in the community and in the lifestyle. And I blame the folks at Kinky Bed and Bondage completely for sucking me into this. And you. My husband was actually into kink and has explored kink more than I have and was into it sooner. So it was a great opportunity for me meeting this wonderful community for me to explore on my own. And so yeah, so I've been in for about 2 years now, and yeah, happy to be here.
What a 2 years.
Oh, so it's
Make it up for that long time.
and I guess I identify as a switch primal hot wife. So yeah, I kind of like Who's That Bear came to it through ethical non-monogamy.
Outstanding. Thank you. Over to S. May I say your name or your Poseidon? How do you say it again? She's muted. Sarah. Talking about you.
Pastrami?
Pastrami.
I forgot it already.
Pastrami?
We'll come back to her. She was getting set up with her tablet. Over to Monica. Lovely Monica. How are you?
Hello. Hi, I'm Monica. I'm doing well. I'm learning still, I think. I've been exploring BDSM for about 2 years now. I've always been a sub, but recently I was able to dominate. So I'm still learning on the terminologies. Therefore, I think I'm a switch. I don't have a kink name yet that I like. I'm still thinking. Yeah, that's about it. I'm excited to be here and learn more, of course.
Welcome.
Thank you, Monica. Over who's left? I think Caitlin, I think you're left.
Hi, I am very, very brand new to the community. I just met Jay, and we had our very first conversation, just kind of exploring what kink is and how I could fit into the community for myself. So I'm pretty much here just to learn and try to explore and try to find a, I don't know, better way to enjoy this kind of world.
Very nice. Do you want to introduce your sister or just you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Jackie. I have also been quite curious about the community for a little while now and have always been honestly kind of nervous about it because I was unsure. And then Caitlin mentioned she was meeting with you. So here I am. I'm super excited.
And when did we meet? When did we meet?
Very recently. Yes, there last night.
So
yeah,
that's how a lot of this works. It's just meeting people and making connections and kind of, people come, people go. And it really is just all about that kink community and just kind of everybody, exploring together, looking out for each other and just keep pushing each other to evolve and keep moving forward. All right, did I miss anyone? Sarah, can you hear us now? Did you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, hi, sorry, I am really new at this. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Good. Yes. Hi. I am. Well, my screen name is Pisani. It is not Piss on Heine, but if that helps remind you of it, then yes, you go right ahead. And I have been in this lifestyle, not extremely active, for about, I don't know, almost 3 years now. I've been divorced for 3 years now, very vanilla, sexless marriage for 16 years. So you can imagine my joy when I have stumbled upon this and met Jay.
Yay!
So yes, I'm currently with a daddy dom who is very much fun. Been with him for about 1.5 years now, and I'm learning all kinds of new stuff, and I'm very excited about any new avenues I can learn to explore. I am a sub. I love rope and bondage and all of that funness. Marks and bruises, the merrier.
Outstanding.
That's all. That's me.
And then, of course, the last but absolutely not least, Tori, would you like to say hi, introduce yourself, talk a little about your background?
I really thought you were going to forget about me.
Tori, I can never forget about.
Well, like he says, my name is Tori. I live in Toronto now, but I'm from Ottawa. Don't know how much the Americans know about Canada. I've been exploring more like the kink side and the actual roles in the last year, but I've always been interested in rougher sex. Yeah, I would definitely identify as a sub and a brat. Yeah, and I'm glad that the last year we've kind of been in lockdown because it's given me more of an opportunity to learn roles instead of just diving in head first and actually doing my research. And yeah.
Oh, this is Bright Eyes. I see quite a bit of stuff pop up in Canada. Is it a pretty active lifestyle up there? Community?
Again, because I'm fairly new, like I only, what was it? I think it was at the beginning of the summer, I sent Jay a message and was just like, munches are a thing. Like I had no clue. So honestly, I don't know because everything's been shut down. So I haven't had an opportunity to really do much.
True, yeah.
This is Monica. Just to follow up on that, I was in Canada about maybe a year ago, and there was a fete party in Montreal. So it was pretty nice.
Yeah, Montreal and Toronto.
Yeah,
they've got one hell of a scenes. Really nice.
It seems like a lot of stuff, like great pictures, great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually one of my personal goals.
We would blush at what they.
All right, so let's roll kind of into the topic of today. So one thing that we're starting to see along the different kind of areas within kink, especially within the psychologist community, is that they're starting to look at kink as a actual sexual orientation. With the way LGBTQ has progressed forward, especially with the way the Supreme Court has kind of ruled in favor of certain rights for the LGBTQ community, it's kind of opened a lot of different discussions to alternative, what they call sexualities. So more than just the usual, male, female, they're looking at just completely like revolutionary ways of considering how people like identify or even like just understand as like sexual attraction and sexual behavior. There's a psychologist named Tess Gemberling who keeps popping up whenever you do searches with these things and you do research on this. And she's written a ton of papers on this topic. And those papers were what I kind of used to put this together today. If anyone who wants, I'll send out this PowerPoint so you can have the references and things in it. It's fascinating some of the things they're talking about now with kind of, what honestly was considered deviant behavior, just as little as 20 years ago. Now they're looking at it very open-mindedly and very, broadly as it's another form of just the way people want to be happy. They want to find other like-minded people and just be, involved and just relate with them. To just talk about sexual orientation in general. So traditionally, sexual orientation has been referred to as male and female. It's the preferred gender, it's on all the legal forms you fill out. That's what it's always been. There's something called sexual configurations theory by a guy named Van Anders, and he was kind of one of the first ones to show evidence that sexual orientation is much more inclusive than was just male and female. And this is where a lot of the LGBTQ community is kind of now looking at sexuality. To what we're talking about today is really, it's the focus on the power dynamic between people. So that's the focus, and that's how the sexual orientation kind of, that's how it works with, you know, two people who are kinky, or in some of our cases, 3, 4, maybe 20, but how they look for sexual partners and things like that. And that really comes down to what their, you know, kink orientations are, and that comes down to really, you know, with kink, it's dominant, submissive, or what's called switch. And everything, all the different roles kind of fall into those 3 main categories. With sexual orientation, it's been very thoroughly researched, analyzed, and written about in professional journals and papers on the, you know, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and other queer sexualities, LGB for the purposes of this discussion. And, you know, in all of these papers, it kind of comes down to 3 main categories: sexual behavior, sexual attraction, and sexual identity. That's really what identifies how a sexual orientation is kind of described in the psychological realm. With the most concrete aspect of sexual behavior is defined as the engagement of those sexual activities. So vanillas, this is everything from kissing to intercourse, rounding those bases, like they always talked about in high school. I'm probably dating myself. What do they call it, Mike?
First base, second base.
When you were a kid.
Home run.
Like 1700.
I called it first base, second base, yeah.
I'm just busting chops. Sexual attraction. So that's the behavior, that's sexual behavior. Sexual attraction, it's arousal, it's interest, it's fantasy. And then of course, how they identify. And this is huge in the modern culture right now. Sexual identity is what really drives a lot of this. You see it on a lot of the social media, you see it a lot of really in every aspect of life now. And this is the term to describe your own sexual orientation. But it often incorporates, you know, your beliefs, your feelings, your actions, and all these things that are wrapped around kind of this identification. So looking at kind of comparing BDSM to LGBTQ, BDSM is a very broad umbrella term. It's an umbrella term for the consensual practices that involve literally the letters, and depending on which faction of BDSM you talk to, those letters change, which makes it even more fascinating. So that comes down to bondage and discipline, dominance and submission, and of course, sadomasochism. With sexuality, you know, there's one core fundamental in all this, and it comes down to, again, a power dynamic. It's a power dynamic between partners that's basically all like-minded, and they have to be involved in compatible activities. And this is where you see, you know, doms and subs gravitate to each other. It's rare doms and doms come together, but it does happen. I'm a primal. I've dated dominance in the past. I have some funny stories about dating domes. Dios is laughing right now. But it does happen, because again, kink, it's not written in stone. It's not black and white. It is all gray. And really it allows the individual to kind of figure out their own sexuality and explore things in their own way.
But did that work for you because of your primal side? Because two dominants together, that one's hard. But if you have primal, and then there's that tug of war kind of thing, that works.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So, and so I actually have planned an entire class on primal. Primal is essentially a switch. But the difference between a switch and a primal is a switch goes kind of back and forth on, depending on what they are interested in, what they feel in. It's a lot of flexibility. A primal, it's based on a struggle for dominance. So, and we can get into a lot more of that when we go into like the switch category. But it is its own fascinating thing. So expressions of a BDSM sexual orientation revolve basically around, like I said, that power dynamic. And that's broken down into, those behaviors that you engage in that generate that power dynamic. The experience, basically the attraction toward those acts within that dynamic, and then of course, adopting your identity. And we talked about this earlier before, BDSM, it's got 3 core roles, and that's dominant, submissive, and switch. And some of the Instagram lives I've been in, some of the other, online discussions I've had, everyone has an opinion and everyone's entitled to their opinion. And, again, kink is gray, it's not black and white. But really, when you start looking at this at within the psychology realm, it starts being lumped into those 3 main categories: dominant, submissive, and switch. So just to talk about dominant, and our guest speaker tonight, who is the dominant, is Diosa. A dominant is a dom. A dominant or dom is someone whose sexual preference, identity, or orientation takes on the role of the superior and often controls other submissive participants. This type of dynamic or partnership is often referred to in the kink and BDSM community as a DNS partnership, dominant, submissive. And again, that is the main orientation, but the roles under it can be any number of variations. There's sirs, there's just dom, there's dominus, there's dominas, there's domes, masters, mistress, disciplinarian, goddess, daddy, mommy, bull, spanker, rigger, top. And it even gets into like, when you get into the leather community, there's like leather mommy and leather daddy and like all these like subcategories within subcategories. And I mean, there's entire like encyclopedias written on this stuff. With submissive, it's basically the compatible opposite to the dominant. So this is the preference, identity, orientation that involves willingly taking on the role of giving up some or all control to a dominant participant. This type of dynamic or partnership is often, and it's cut off, look at that. So it's basically, it's all negotiated. That's the key thing to kind of walk around here. And in that negotiation, the submissive still has power. And that's the one big thing that I want to make sure everyone kind of walks away with here. 100%. So the dom is given control. They control the dynamic, they decide what happens and all that. But the submissive has the ultimate power in the dynamic because,
because they're given the control by the submissive.
And I'm biased sometimes. Sometimes I say she when I say submissive, but the submissive.
I don't.
Yeah. It's just bad habits. So the submissive has all the power because they control the gift of submission. And with that gift, they are allowed to negotiate how much control or what type of control they give over to the dom. The dom is allowed to counter negotiate. So they do have a checks and balance, and they can choose, no, I'm not getting involved in this dynamic, so everything has balance, and at the end of the day, it all has to come back in the middle. Would you agree, Diosa?
Yeah, I agree. And the difference is if you're talking about your lifestyle in general, 24/7, if you're submissive and in a relationship, then certainly you need to map that out on what your life looks like. If your dominant is controlling everything from the moment you wake up to, you go to bed and how you even sleep, how
Yeah,
long you
absolutely.
sleep, versus just during play, just during a party or a gathering or something like
Or
that.
even just during a scene.
Right. So differences in that. And as you mentioned, the different degrees of being submissive, yeah, that needs to be crystal clear, because if we cross over to somebody that's a slave, that's a huge difference than somebody that's just kind of submissive, maybe switch, kind of dabbling.
Like
And
a bedroom submissive.
right,
Yeah.
right. Versus somebody that's slave that needs absolutely everything spelled out to them. They're not going to go pee without permission. So as you put in here that the variations include, but yeah, it goes from something kind of lighthearted and fun to, no, I need you to govern my every single move and what I wear and when I sleep and how, who my friends will be, everything. And there's nothing wrong with either end of the spectrum, but just knowing that, yeah, all of that still falls in the realm of submissive, and it is up to the dominant to protect that person no matter where they fall in there. I mean, that's a huge responsibility. And I think the frustrating part in our lifestyle is when we find somebody that kind of dabbles in being a dominant and really hurts somebody that is truly submissive, because they don't know what they're doing. So I appreciate you holding the educational opportunities here so that we can keep everybody safe and aware on predators.
No, absolutely.
I
And
have a question for Diosa.
who's this?
This is Kinky and Cultured, sorry.
It's okay.
Diosa, do you find as a dom as a dominant, do you find that sometimes submissives don't know whether they are more submissive or more slave, or like what is it like as a dom, like kind of like being with someone as they're figuring out if they're, because I know like slaves and subs are very different from each other.
Yeah.
So from your experience, like how do you cope with that as a dom if like someone is trying to figure out like what level of like submissive or slave they actually are?
Yes. And that's a great question to, I want to make sure that I understand what you're asking is how does a dominant sort of get a grasp on what level of submissive they're working with?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Yeah, first of all, hopefully you get, you do homework on your dominant. That is hugely important, that you find out what happened in their last relationship. How did they treat that submissive? And can you contact that submissive? If the answers to that are, no or a negative, go running, get the hell away from them because there's something wrong. And maybe they are not well skilled in their craft, or they are not truly a dominant. Some people just have it naturally, right? They're just plain dominant. So to be able to read a person, not everybody has that ability. Some people are kind of streetwise and some people are book smart, right? So if you can kind of get a read on somebody, then you know right away if it's a match. And from the dominant perspective, if you can read somebody, you know what level of submissive they are. If they kind of acquiesce right away, then you're looking at somebody that's not dabbling in what they are, that they're pretty well grounded and they're somewhere between the middle or headed towards slave. Slave is just a huge, huge responsibility. So if you encounter somebody that's slave, you know that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
They walk in pretty much on their hands and knees because they cannot function in any form until you tell them how. But most people fall somewhere in the middle, especially if their day job is something very strong and a leadership position. And then when they are on their own time, they just want to let go. They just want to acquiesce completely and let somebody else run the show, sort of, right? Because they've got to snap to and go back to work in that 9 to 5. So it really is, to answer your question, getting a read of people, asking lots of questions, and doing your homework both ways.
Yeah, no, it's super interesting.
And I think just when you're doing your research into a dom, especially a male dom, but not always a male, females as well, I think you have to be really careful on discerning between a true dom who has compassion and who takes responsibility for their subs, and somebody who just takes advantage of the fact that they can do whatever they want
Yes.
and get off themselves
Yes.
because that person is letting them.
Right.
And really not caring for them.
And that's where the community comes in. You have to ask questions. You know, like Bright Eyes, she's amazing at finding out information about people. So if you're new and you ask her, I've heard about this person, I'm considering, you know, getting into a relationship or at least playing or see where it goes. You know, she's somebody in the community that will help you do your homework. And that's just the number one, is you've got to ask questions and get a solid community with everybody whom you trust, that protects you. So it's not just one person watching out for you, it's a whole village.
And back when we were actually able to go to clubs and large events, as a bottom, I think it's really important to watch any prospective top that you're considering or dom that you're considering play with somebody else first. See how they play, see how they interact, see how they care for that person after they smack their ass,
right,
and after they do whatever it is they're supposed to do.
And also, well, also in how they negotiate the scene beforehand.
Correct.
Did they bother to ask them about any potential medical issues? Did they, you know, ask the submissive's experience and what they're actually trying to get out of a scene?
Yeah.
Versus just saying, okay, let me tie you up. Like, no.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. So just to go over real quick, the switch. So the switch is someone whose preference, identity, orientation can involve taking on either role. And we touched on this today in some of the different discussions that we've had. They can be a submissive, where they're giving up some or all control, or they can be the dominant, where they're, you know, taking control. The key thing with this dynamic is that it's versatile, and there's no specific rules or boundaries. Each switch kind of operates a little bit differently. It's quite common that a switch can be basically one orientation with one person. And, you know, for example, they have a partner who they are dominant with, or they have a partner who they're submissive with, but they go to like a kink club for a kink party and they want to submit. They want that experience because it helps them decompress. So, you know, again, the key with being a switch is it's versatile. It's completely how that individual person perceives things, looks at things, their experiences in life. It all kind of adds into, you know, what the definition of switch is. And this is where we talked a little bit earlier. One of a subset of a switch is a primal. And a primal is a whole different ballgame. It's animalistic. It gets into like a lot of sensory, a lot of kind of just instinctual feelings. But the key difference between a switch, like we're talking here, and the primal is that struggle for dominance. So where the switch kind of goes back and forth, for me as a primal, every single encounter I have with someone new, and it could be in the same hour, there is an immediate decision over that struggle of dominance, who is the dominant and who is the submissive. And that's usually decided in one of three ways. There's a physical besting, which clearly that can't happen at work too often. There's the psychology. So you either have the psychological edge over the other person, or they have it over you, or there's chemistry. You know, there's just something about that person. You get within their pheromone reach, and you just, okay, you can have me. It's fine. You're in control. So that is kind of a little bit of a different dynamic, but again, it still comes back to that versatile like mentality that, and it could be different things with different people. Do you want to add anything to that, kinking culture?
I think for me, like at first I kind of, when I first got into things, I was a bit confused, and I know all switches are not confused. That's not what I'm saying. But I think I was a bit confused because for me, it just kind of, it fully depends on the situation or the people that like I'm involved with. One thing that I found is because I'm happy and like really happy in both roles, like as a dom or a sub, that what I really enjoy is what people enjoy. Like if I know that someone is like super into something or they are kind of more one way than the other, then I kind of lean that way because I'm happy in both. Also just like speaking authentically, like I feel like I'm always kind of like trying to learn and figure out and like test myself. So I've been curious recently about trying to figure out whether I do actually fall one way or the other as far as like dom or sub. And I don't know whether I do. I don't have an answer for that, but that's kind of something that I've been thinking just in my own head recently to try and kind of figure out. But no, I think you said it perfectly, and I've never actually heard anyone say that regarding like the kink scene and stuff about it kind of being a gray space. I think overall you're right. Like the kink world, like there is a lot of gray space, and I think with a switch specifically, it does also have a lot of gray space. So yeah, I don't know.
And it's ever evolving. Like what I was 8 years ago, it's completely different than what I am today.
Oh yeah.
It's never set in stone.
Yeah. And I think even to go to the dominant side of things, you start out and switch because you got to learn.
You don't know. I mean, not everybody knows what they like.
Right.
Well, and you know that was going to be my question for you guys because like I'm like a speaker and stuff, but I always have questions all the time. But like my question for you guys was gonna be like, did you ever kind of feel like Bright Eyes and Dio? So did you ever kind of feel like in this space where you kind of felt like a switch, like before you like full on fell into your groove as like a dom or a sub, like when you first were like starting out and stuff?
I think for sure. I think it went opposite. Like in the beginning, I was way more submissive than I think I am now. And I think for Diosa, you became much more dominant as you became
because
comfortable.
I wanted to, because you got to know both sides. You have to know what it feels like to be a bottom, and it is all about trust and the chemistry and the whole dynamic. It would have to be somebody that is stronger than I. They have to be way stronger than I am so that I feel safe. If they begin to waver in being a dominant, I'm out. So there are some people that truly are dominant. We had a guy that was my mentor that passed away. He didn't slip in and out of character. You know what I mean? He was it. And so I always felt safe with him. I knew that he as cocky as he was always going to be cocky. He was always going to be a pain in the ass, but he knew his shit, and I always felt safe with him and knew where he stood. So it allowed me to relax and experience things that otherwise I would not know. But on my dominant side of things, there are things that just come naturally to me, just engaging in a scene. So sometimes people will come to me and ask me to teach them how to do a scene. And a scene for me is quite organic, right? It depends on the person whom I'm with, on how it will unfold. But to answer your question, I went through being a switch, but it was somebody that was my equal or stronger and knew his shit for sure. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think the biggest change I've come to realize in myself is I think more than being submissive, I categorize myself as a bottom. And the difference between the two in my mind is that I like to be physically dominated, not necessarily mentally or psychologically dominated. And so that's where I see the difference between those two terms. But I mean, like I'll have just as much fun co-topping Osa, and I'll have a blast because it's super fun. It may not be what my inner soul desires, but it's super fun.
Yeah. So have a good experience.
Yeah. So I'll bounce back and forth, in different.
But does that come
situations.
from knowing yourself so that you can kind of top from the bottom and tell somebody, one, so that they are honing their craft, right? And two, what brings you pleasure too?
Yeah, I'm just naturally a dominant person, I think. So I think being a bottom, I'm pretty top from the bottom for sure.
Yeah.
what I find too is like I feel like naturally like in like everyday life, like I'm very outgoing, like I'm normally the leader type person in groups and things like that. And like I'm very dominant as well. And like if someone like the reason why I do love both, but for me it like fully depends on the person. Like if I find someone that like I vibe with and can fully go into, as Jim taught me, my like subspace, because I didn't know that vocabulary before, but like subspace, like if someone can like really get me into that, like it's one of the best feelings ever. But it just fully depends on the person for me. And that's why like every experience, whether it's sexual or not, and I feel like that kind of goes into being a switch, like every experience, whether it's sexual or not, like fully just depends on the connection that I have with like either that person or that group of people or the situation I'm in or anything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I know,
Well, Bright Eyes,
go ahead. Who's this?
I was going to say, this is Kay. Bright Eyes mentioned just how much fun co-topping can be, and just doing a scene for specifically a scene. I think sometimes when we get so caught up in the roles, you can, and the nomenclature, you can kind of forget that really it's about having fun, and it's about exploring, and it's okay to be giggly and having a good time with somebody else. And it's okay to just do it for a scene. You don't have to fall into this very strict, dark place. That's fun too, but you don't
live
have
24/7.
to.
Yeah, you can definitely fall in and out of.
Right.
And there's nothing that, just like being a sub doesn't preclude you, or being a dom doesn't preclude you from having, dipping your toe in any type of scene that happens to tickle your fancy at the moment.
But I get that all the time where everyone says, oh, I didn't even think she was approachable. Where did that come from? Marie, do we hear that every party? I think I'm okay.
Love it.
I can concur, that happens a lot. They come to me and ask if they can go speak with her. I go, yeah, go, just go.
But I do like having a gatekeeper. Thanks, Marie.
I also just like
Do some of the new
I've never even heard like until
Go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was like, until I was involved in like this like small group and like became friends with you guys. I don't know whether anyone had ever said like topping from the bottom to me, and I don't, or like Jim, like you called me a brat, and like you did, and it's like that's what I mean by like I feel like everything's always changing, because like I think like we were at like Kinky Bed and Bondage and like doing rope, and Mike's like, stop topping from the bottom, Heather, like yelling at me, and like all out of love, but like yelling at me, or like Jim's like, you're a brat, like things. So I don't know, I just like it's I don't know, I feel like the fun thing for me about like this whole scene and vibe and everything in the community is that like it's okay to also be like always kind of changing, and like you don't really need to like we identify as something, like I identify as a switch, but like also if I evolve to like something else, like it would be fine. So
Yeah.
I feel like the more people I meet and the more like I hang out with people and everything, the more like I realize more about myself. And I'm only saying that because like topping from the bottom, like I didn't even know that was a thing, but I definitely do it. I definitely do it all the time. So yeah.
Well, and it's also easy to be brought to them.
Because I think with Bright Eyes, the way she tops from the bottom is instructional. You don't even know you've been told. She's so sweet. Gives you that smile, right? But yeah, Bratty, that's totally different. That one, that'll get you spanked. Or not. Yeah, Bratty tends to push buttons, right? To try to elicit a result.
But that's the fun part.
Yeah. I think your style is more instructive. Yeah. Because if you wanted to spank
Also fun.
or you wear a shirt.
Well, it's funny too, because when you do scenes, like each dom has their own style, even the submissives and how they receive the, to bottom, they have their own style. So the last play party that we had, we ended up putting Kinky Cultured and 6 Feet Sugar together. And yeah, I remember this. And we ended up doing a 4-way co-top where literally the 4 doms took each corner and there was whips and dragon tails going down range to hit the poor 2 submissives in the middle. And like we started like rotating, but you saw how each of the dominants were giving feedback where like, oh, I might be getting unstable again here. Just be patient if I go pause for a second. But you saw like,
we can still hear you.
That was pretty clear.
She was like, feet on the floor, please. Feet on
There
the
was no
floor.
please.
That was me. I say please. Diosa doesn't say
No,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure Diosa hit me with a dragon tail whip. And then when I yelled, I'm pretty sure the exact words were like, "What was that? I didn't even hit you that hard." And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Go ahead, someone ask a question.
And then Maria, I like your comment.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. We didn't know if you were going to hear me or not, so.
Yeah.
Well, I was also going to say that it's also good when people co-top too.
Yeah.
I would say that experience was a lot of fun, but also also going back to like talking about switches and like each individual, even though there was 4 doms like hitting me with whips and stuff, like I felt differently, not in a bad or a good way, with like each one. Like there was like a different energy with each person, even though it was all happening at once. And then a different energy as well with myself and 6 Feet Sugar. Is that the pet name? Yes. Yep. 6 Feet Sugar. Like there's a different energy with me and her, as well as me and like each person that was hitting me. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I've definitely, since I came into the community and where I'm at now, I mean, a lot of them right now would see my little progression and how I went from a sub and with pet and then now primal. So I totally agree with what everybody says, is that at the beginning we were a certain thing, but we definitely have probably evolved more into what we kind of truly are. And we'll still be evolving. Again, it's, as we said, it was a gray area. It's consistently changing, but mainly because we change as individuals. So
Yes.
just, again, having fun with it and being safe with it.
So one of the best examples of evolving in, their kink journey, I think, is one of the Diosa subs, V.
Oh.
And I really want to get V in on one of these. We'll give her a lot of wine. Well, not a lot. That'll get out of control with V. But we'll get her to, give her some wine, get her to relax.
See the progression right there.
Oh, boy. But just to kind of give her impression on how she has grown so much. Like when I first met her, God, I don't even know, 5 more years ago. Like she would come in, she'd go into a cage in the floor, shut the cage door, and then people would just hand her wine through the cage door throughout the night, and she would just stay in the cage. She wouldn't come out. And then, gradually through growing and getting comfortable and, getting more and more comfortable. I think the last party, she
cursed you for trying to put somebody else in her cage.
I know. Right. Even though she hasn't used her cage in years.
Right.
Whatever.
Now we got to put people in the shower.
Yeah, exactly. But she actually brought in her own subs, and she was topping her own subs, doing wax play and impact play. It was kind of like, oh, that's so cute when they grow.
Right. She was even bringing people to top.
Yeah, and then she's like, come on. And again, but the great part was that we could each get a feel for her and a read for her, and we know where she is or what she needs when she comes in that night.
And she's very taken care of.
Yes, and that's what she, when she comes there, that's what she needs. And also, Kinky and Cultured. I think during your scene, again, to be able to get a read, you didn't strike me as somebody that I would have to go up and say, be my good girl. You know, be a good kitty and just stand there and take it. Instead, straight up instruction. It felt like an approach that worked for you. So and just kind of seeing what works for people and you know, challenging their limits or putting them in a comfort zone or subspace that works for them. You just have to know right away. So even without negotiation, sometimes, because we didn't really have that, but I talked to Jay and knew where you were going. So I knew you were not like the cuddly type, that you could really handle it. So
and just having a dom or dame that's very in tune with body language and your responses, and you know, any sub that they're working with is very important.
I don't know how people do
and
it.
I fully agree with that. And it's like how,
say it again,
like how we were talking about earlier, how it's important to like have the respect of like different people in the community and everything. Like even though Diosa and I had only talked a couple times like previous to that, or like not even just Diosa but other people that were involved in that scene, I still felt completely comfortable because I'm very comfortable with you guys and you guys are very comfortable with her, and like it's just like that's why I just think the community aspect of like in kink and stuff is really cool, because even if prior we didn't really have a chance to like full on discuss everything, like there was no part of me that felt like uncomfortable with like the situation that was happening either.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Who's That Bear? And it's funny that you're all talking about this, because actually I had a conversation in depth about a lot of this stuff with someone that a lot of you folks know, Lady Ray, and we were talking about kind of how new people move through the space, right? And they often kind of start by jumping onto those archetypes. Like whenever you meet a newbie, you know, a lot of times they'll tell you, how do you find BDSM? And they'll say 50 Shades of Grey, and they kind of lock into that daddy dom or kitten or that kind of that archetype. But then once they become a part of the community and they meet some people, they have some conversations, they start finding different role models and different mentors. And, you know, that's part of that whole co-topping, right? What is co-topping? It's fun, but it's also a kind of mentorship. And then eventually you kind of reach this really cool third stage where you get to explore these sides of you that maybe you didn't know were there, that were kind of latent and change. And all of that, I believe, stems from that feeling of safety. My mantra, and if you've ever talked to me before, you've probably heard me say it a million times, is safe comes before sexy in the dictionary and in play. And it's one of those things where it's the power and the value of community is creating a space that has that accountability and safety and knowledge, where you can try some new stuff that maybe you weren't necessarily ready to try, but now you've kind of you've put on the leather pants and those felt good, and maybe you want to try the blindfold this time, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you all are talking about this. It's a really valuable conversation for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how we were talking about
50 Shades. I tend to stay away from anybody that's their only experience has been the 50 Shades book or that god awful movie, because they just seem to be trending through and dabbling. If you're really of this lifestyle, you know it.
Yeah.
You're not just poking around.
It's done wonders to move kink into mainstream like society, but at the same time,
but it's also incredibly problematic.
And I think they knew it even when they wrote the book, right? Because they did the second book to try to fill in the gaps for the first book, where they realized, you left a whole lot out. So yeah, they tried.
So I just wanted to open up to some of the newer people in the discussion for any questions they have.
Yeah, we're little sisters. They must have some questions by now.
I put it on the last slide, so it has the 3 panel members. So just go ahead and ask questions. Anything you have, open it up to you.
Where are those quiet sisters? The one that spoke second, I know you've got questions. shy.
Is it Caitlin and Jackie?
Hey, Marie.
Sorry. Caitlin says she'll ask questions later. She's a little busy right now.
Hey. Sorry, we don't have video.
Sorry. She had to go to the restroom. I don't have any questions as of now. It's been very informative though.
Sarah, do you have any questions? Anybody else? Monica?
So who is that, Caitlin?
My question, like,
There was someone that said that they think that they potentially like they were new to it, but they like identified they think as a switch. I don't remember who said that.
like I understand a bit more of the rules, but I want to try to find.
I think that was Caitlin. If you're not talking, can you just—
I have a question.
so everybody can hear?
So Caitlin, of all the stuff that you heard, what is it that you had more questions about?
She stepped away for a minute. She'll be right back.
Oh, so this is the sister who was curious.
All right.
Okay, so what are you curious about?
This is Jackie.
Jackie.
Here's Zach. What was the question? Oh, me?
Yes.
So confusing.
Jackie, did you hear?
I have always been curious. I'm sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
I've always been curious about the community and I like being dominated. So, I just want to explore more in that aspect and see kind of what's out there as far as like, I guess everything that you guys have been talking about. So,
what was your introduction to this lifestyle?
my sister.
Outstanding.
This is recent, so. So this is Caitlin. I ran back to the laptop really quickly. I guess you guys were asking like what piqued the curiosity? That was the question?
Yeah.
What was your introduction to this lifestyle? Like what would, I guess maybe your first experience or?
So I was married for a couple of years, and the man that I married told me when we met that he was dominant, and I was very young, and I was 20, and I took him at his word. I didn't know anything about the community. Knowing, a couple years later, I come to find that he wasn't at all, not even in the most simplest of terms was he ever a dominant in any way. And I have found that in my sexual life then and since then, I just feel like something is lacking. I have a very high pressure job. It's a big career. I have a very big career. I have a very professional career, and I have to be on my game all the time. And I'm a little bit of a control freak, a little bit of a type A. And I really find that it would be very nice in the bedroom to not have to be constantly in control. And I struggle with previous partners.
Very common.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've found that I struggle with discontent in my sexual relationships because I find that I still have to be assertive with the partners that I find myself with, and I'm not happy doing that. I want to be told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and occasionally I want to be able to fight back and have them fight me more, And I didn't realize that was kink until I talked to Jay last night. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I came across his profile on Tinder, and I saw that he had a little message in there about the kink life coach. And I messaged him and I was like, I'm curious. I don't know if this is a kink or if it's not. And, we had a drink and we talked more about it. And it seems like I might be a better fit for this community than I would have been in vanilla, which is where I've been for the last 31 years. So
yeah. Well, welcome. When COVID's over, we'll drag you in person.
Caitlin, right? All right,
I mean, we've kind of gotten aware that you guys do parties, so I think that's something that, Jackie and I are both interested in experiencing. I mean, I definitely have hesitation and I have fear just because I think anytime you do something new, as confident of a person as I am, anything new is often frightening. And this is very new, and it's something I have fantasized about. It is something that I've thought about a lot in my life. So the fact that I just stumbled into the reality of it is a little overwhelming as well, and taking a little bit of time to, come to terms with. So this is a great introduction, having these conversations with people like you and listening to these kinds of lectures. It's a great introduction, and I'm really excited and kind of taking away some of the hesitancy. So thank you guys for that.
Absolutely. And luckily now with anything that we do in person, it's very small, and it probably will be for quite a while.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The part is that Jay is reaching out to people because Caitlin, I think she said she's looking for sort of her match or someone that can run the show in the bedroom so that she can just kind of, acquiesce and take a break from the high pressure daytime, right? Because there are so many
Yes,
parties.
that's exactly what I'm trying to find.
But hang in there and really vet whomever you're considering playing with, because there are just so many out there that'll dress the part and look the part, and it may take 6 months or so before they show their true colors that they are not the dominant. They just plain are not.
They're more selfish than that. They are more doing it for their own needs than really truly want a bottom or a sub.
Right, or they're submissive.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and I believe that my ex-husband was kind of in that class where he had a little bit of information on what a dom does or what a dom is, and he ran with it in a way that just ended up causing pain, not pleasure. So, it really wasn't something that I think he knew anything about, and he just saw himself in this certain light, and it wasn't the true community's way of defining the word dominant. So I've already had experience with that, and like it's something I'm, fearful of again, of course, but hopefully, meeting you guys, and staying in contact with Jay, that maybe it won't be like that if it happens again.
And we both Diosa and Bright Eyes, me, have known Jay for at least 6 years, if not more. And we can vouch for his character, the fact that he is truly dominant, but also very caring. And responsible, which is important.
And consistent.
Yeah.
And I haven't known him that long either, but I can also say that as well. 100%. And I have been very like the same type of thing that you're talking about, how I wasn't hesitant to come into like the scene overall, like the kink world, but I was hesitant kind of to come into it kind of locally. So it's not really the same thing that you're saying, but like I resonate with what you're saying as well. And like meeting this group, like it like really helps. So I do think like you met a really good group of people, and I'm really happy that I have, and I'm happy that you have too, because I really feel what you're saying.
And I think too that we are.
I know, it's very exciting.
So I think that makes a difference. Not just anybody is in our group.
Yeah.
So that makes a huge difference.
Anybody who's with us, we've also vetted quite a bit and have known for years.
And with the vetting, it's not that we're excluding people, it's that.
We're excluding people.
So kink attracts lots of different types of personality. And unfortunately, that includes extreme personalities and people who are mentally going through issues.
Or just plain creepers.
Yeah. So.
I'm crazy.
Yeah. Or just thinking that or just thinking that they're going to come in and get laid. I mean, that's not what this is.
And that was the first question, like the first time. So I met this group whenever I went to a munch at a brewery. And that was the first thing that like, I think I had different conversations with a lot of you that's on this call. And that's the same thing, because my first hesitation is like, was that exactly like, why would I want to be involved locally? Like, I'm very easy to identify. Like, I don't want to try to throw on people. And like the fact that you guys have such a like good, I don't want to say vetting process, but I guess I can say vetting process. But the fact that you guys do take the time to actually get to know people before you welcome them into your group, like that's amazing, because it just like took all my fears away. So I think it was Caitlin that was talking. If you have any hesitation towards coming like in person, like I definitely understand that. But I hope like hearing them talk and me talk about how it's not just, I don't want to say a free for all, like, but it's not just like, it is like a really good group of people that come to these things.
And that's really, so when Diosa was talking earlier about like a submissive vetting a dominant, this is kind of what we're talking about, where, you know, I can't stress enough to just get involved in a community. You know, get involved, go to classes, go to munches, because once you become involved in that community, they essentially vet for you. And if Kinksters are nothing else, they're vocal.
Yeah, and they're loyal.
Yeah, and if they don't trust someone, they go after them and be like, no, that person has violated consent. This is, you know, the situation. And they're very serious about, you know, predators and those type of people and taking care of basically other Kinksters.
But if you don't know what you don't know, then by all means try other groups and we'll welcome you when you come back. But yeah, you don't know the difference.
Well, and we also help each other in finding out information about others. If you, like, some people don't feel like they should, or they feel shy about doing it and need some help in doing that, we have no problem in helping with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and most of us are members of other groups too, and we go and we, you know, kind of circle around and bring back things we learn and kind of do that whole cross cultivation and stuff. I just want to deviate for one point. Somebody had a question like 10 minutes ago, and I just want to make sure that they get time to ask their question. Who was that?
And Miss K said she remembers her first party, so I want to circle to that too. Circle in there.
It was a question. It was,
is this Miss K?
and, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, sound great.
Okay. So, just something I thought of that might be fun to speak about, not necessarily a question, but especially for, we've talked about like lots of different kinds of kink. You know, there's rope, there's wax, there's e-stim, there's impact, there's sensory, all the different kinds of things that you can get involved in. And like I mentioned in the chat about the first time that I came to a party, there were so many kind of stations and stuff going on. I was really wide-eyed kid in the candy store, like, oh my God, look at all this stuff. But what I have found interesting for myself is that I can have certain areas where I prefer to bottom and some areas where I prefer to top. And I know that there are definitely switches who feel that way, but I was thinking with Bright Eyes for Her, since you have as a submissive, but you've also co-topped, are there certain areas where you absolutely prefer to do one or the other? And do you find that that is common kind of across the board? Are there certain kinks that, or certain areas of kinks that you are more drawn to be, say, more dominant in, and more drawn to be more submissive in, and why? Did that make sense?
It 100% depends on the person I'm working with. As far as like, if I want to co-top, I'm co-topping because we're topping a person who enjoys a particular thing, and just getting the pleasure that they're getting out of what we're doing to them gives me pleasure. So that's the fun part of it, is being with a comrade, you know, my best girl, and causing somebody else pleasure or pain that they enjoy, and just the joy that we get out of doing that it's more fun. So I'm not actually physically getting, my own personal sexual pleasure, but it's completely different.
It went bye-bye.
Wait, I think they're back.
Yay.
Hello.
We're back.
Okay, so as a bottom, my personal pleasure is more physical, more textile, more like rope or hot wax or things that'll cause me
Sensory.
Yeah, more sensory. Exactly. So yeah.
Monica, Tori, do you have any questions or anything you'd like to add?
I don't.
I got a question.
Who's this?
Paul.
Hi, Paul.
I've been pretty quiet the whole time so far. Sorry. So like the first party I went to was at Diosa's for Halloween, right? Yeah, Halloween. And I looked at the toys and I was just, as the chat said, a kid in candy store kind of a thing, like wide-eyed in Sam's workshop, literally. How does one get more experience with that if you're unsure what to buy or what to work with really then?
I would definitely say talk to, like either Diosa or somebody who owns those toys. Ask questions, play with them a little bit, ask what they're used for, how do you use them. You can definitely get information about like the quality of toys is a big thing. So once you start getting really into it and you find out you really love Dragon Tails or you really love whips, you're going to get to the point where you're going to want a really high quality made one. And they're really hard to find. So you have to have connections. It's mostly you're getting it right from the person who's making it. Those are the highest quality pieces.
And come in for open play or schedule some private time or something so you can try things out. A lot of people are reluctant to just jump right in at a party and try something. So yeah, come on in and try different things when there's nobody around. See what you like.
There are also occasionally events that you'll find where the focus isn't necessarily a play party. It's more of like an exploratorium, and they'll actually have stations where you can go and you'll have someone who knows how to do, who knows how to throw a flogger or knows how to tie a single column, and they'll show you their specific toy and give you a little demo on it. So that's something that happens fairly often too. And you'll hear about those events by going to Munches and talking to people and being a part of that community. That's how you'll get the invite, and they'll say, hey, so-and-so is going to give a demo on fire cupping tonight. You can watch, you can ask questions, and you can often try it out.
And just to go off of like more of what Who's That Bear is saying, something similar, I had someone visiting that was interested in all of that, and like at the Crucible in DC, they did exactly what he's talking about. They did like a Dungeons 101, and they had different like stations set up to where you could go to whatever station you wanted, and they had kind of like a pro like person there to kind of just like feel things out with you too.
Yeah, I've seen the Crucible and I've been wanting to go to it. It's just with COVID and everything, nothing's really open. So it's kind of hard to get into the lifestyle a little bit when literally every Munch is shut down and every party's like highly restricted for good reasons, of course.
Well, I definitely recommend, like, whenever obviously COVID is hopefully away and things are safe, the Dungeons 101, a night that they do there, I think it's free to go and kind of just explore. It was really cool. Like, I was already kind of experiencing some of those things, but my partner that was with me, like, they were very good as well. But also, I just want to reiterate too, like what other people are saying about like just getting someone that that kind of like has the things and knows what they're talking about. I don't know, Mike, are you okay with me sharing about me and my friend the other night, like hanging out with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I try to help out every once in a while, but he wants others.
Yeah,
Oh,
well, I would just say too, like my one of my best friends, like that's who I'm visiting here in the city. She's been very intrigued to like try whips, and like she thinks she's dominant, but like she doesn't really know. So the other night, like we went to Kinky B&B and hung out with just Mike, like in just like a small setting, to where he was kind of just like showing her the different style of whips, and like using me to kind of show her how to like throw them and things like that. So yeah, I think just to reiterate, like if you get someone that you trust, like I do with Mike, it can be a really cool experience too, to figure out like what you like.
That was Kate. Thanks for mentioning about the fire play that we did. I think Jared is working on some more things coming up in the new year. But just as we're vetting attendees, we're vetting those that claim to be the experts too.
So-called.
There's a fine line.
And that usually, and as someone like I've known some other fire people, and I get things done to me a lot. So it's great being able to do that and being able to take some of the things that people are able to do and seeing where they are and how they're able to do it. So it is fun and figuring and meeting those people and then seeing where their level is and what they're able to take.
Yeah,
But it is good. Like, and I enjoyed being a semi-demonstration for the fire guy, and be able to show people. So it was a great time.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're coming to the end here. I just want to open it up to any final questions from around the table.
Oh yeah, fire play. During COVID, we've got some new toys. So we've got cupping coming up, and you know, the thing about us being out here in Funchester though is our experts are at least 90 minutes away. Yeah, so we gotta, you know, really plan, and then a backup plan, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to, you know, again, we've got Jared on board now. Thanks, Jared. Who's lining up some things where we can bring it back, and hands-on and interactive that's the key. So hard to do right now, but
Do you
I
want
think
to
it matters.
talk about Dios a little bit? The new people on here, they're not familiar with it.
Yeah, so we've got another version sort of the kinky bed and breakfast, or kinky bed and bondage here. So just a few more toys, a little more space. So if we're having 10 to 25 people, then it's a way that we can get together and try some things with lots of different stations. And it appeals equally to those in the kinky realm of things, BDSM, and to swingers. So swingers come in with a different agenda, but they always kind of dabble and see what we got going on too. So they'll spank a little and then go do their thing, eat some food, and then they're gone. So. Yeah.
It's swink friendly.
Swink. Yeah. And Dios's is extremely elegant compared to some of the other places I've been. They're kind of crude.
That's kind.
Clapping. Yes, no jeans. No jeans. Ladies and fellas, no jeans.
I've been asked to escort gentlemen out who have jeans on.
Correct.
So we prefer you go outside, take your pants off, and come back in.
There you go.
Yeah, we've sent people home to go get changed to come back, and they've lived far away.
Yeah. They should have read. Read the rules.
Do you want to talk about any events coming up or anything like that?
Yeah, so we have something in January 16th. Jared, he's the man. He's lining it up. Jared, you want to you on that?
So the short pitch of that is the January 16th event. It's an educational event with a post-apocalyptic theme, because we've finally gotten through 2020. So we feel like we've already kind of gone through. So we've got a couple of surprises planned. We've got a couple of new things that we're testing out at Dios's as well. So yeah, stay tuned for that. It's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, so with our limited number of that we're allowed to have, it's imperative that everyone kind of sign up early. But also we're calling it interactive instructional.
right? So read between the lines on that. We're no longer allowed to host play parties. Thank you, Governor.
Educational.
That's correct. So in order for the venue
Yep.
to be able to host up to 25 people, we now fall under the realm of educational that satisfies us being a non-for-profit. So again, no play parties.
You will learn things.
We will educate you on how to.
That is without a doubt.
That's right. Watch and learn.
Love it.
Yeah, and then practice. And practice will now conclude.
Oh, yeah.
So we have no,
Early night.
other thing. Yeah, because the governor wants everybody off the streets between midnight and 5, because that's when COVID comes out, I guess. I don't know.
That's when everybody comes out.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's when the virus can only function at midnight.
that's correct. And if you have 26 people, yeah.
Yep, it knows.
And what's your website?
Visit diosa.com.
And she's on most social media now. We've
I don't know anything
gotten
about
her
that. I
on.
believe you. I take your word for it.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks,
I
Jay.
say text me. You can text me.
On most social media, she's Diosa Playspace.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the Kinky Bed and Bondage?
We're more of we're Kinky Bed and Bondage, which is like basically a B&B. It's private, separate from the main house. It's good for, it's queen size bed, so you can sleep 2, but you can play with about 6 and have a great time. So, and we're also connected with Wolf Spirit on Instagram.
What's your website?
Kinkybedbondage.com.
A couple little quick plugs here, and then we'll wrap things up. So all of the stuff that with this, all the classes, all the products that Wolf Spirit pushes, all that goes to new opportunities to do more stuff like this. So it allows me to buy more equipment, allows me to buy more, cameras, all that stuff, so we can kind of keep moving the stuff forward. In January, we have a couple of things going up. The next virtual class for this is on 13 January. We're going to get into a different topic, and just a reminder out to everyone, if you have topics that you want us to do with this, just go ahead and send me a direct message, and then we can add them to the list. I've gotten some really good suggestions coming in, so we're going to have some great discussions like this in the future. We're supposed to have a hands-on on 8 January, which is a much smaller kind of instructional, which is actually in person. We're going to go ahead and skip that because I got to go for surgery. So yeah, we're going to skip that one, and we'll push it to the following week. And we do have a meet and greet scheduled for 7 January at Bear Chase Brewery. We're going to try, last one we got canceled because there was just too much going on with COVID and all that. We're going to try to spread things out and keep the groups to 10 people max. So, the event's open to all Kinksters are allowed to come, but we're kind of have a a dungeon monitor kind of standing there, and, just to keep the group smaller and spread out. And Bear Chase is all open air, and it's all spread out, and it's absolutely gorgeous view of the mountains. So it'll be nice. It'll be fun. Good social event.
So what day is your hands-on again?
So we're going to cancel the 8th.
Okay.
And we're going to push to the following. So you just close the calendar. I can't see. So it would be the 22nd.
Okay.
And yeah, we will go from there. Any last questions or anything? Oh, and then, so the January book that we're putting out for January recommended reading is Playing Well with Others by Lee Harrington and Melina Williams. This was a great book that I read when I first got started. It's hysterical, talking about how you get involved in the kink community, what it's like going to munches, what the etiquette is, dealing with dominance and submissives, and you know, looking for things like day callers and, you know, are you allowed to approach this person directly and all that stuff. So I'll have this. There's actually, there's a couple, there is.
Oh.
There's some fun little cartoons and pictures. I know. So yeah, this will be posted on my Instagram. If you want to see what the cover looks like, so you can find it on Amazon. It wasn't expensive. It's only $12, but it's a fantastic read.
On Kindle, it was like $1.
Well, damn it. I spent $12. Yeah, and actually you can find it used. I did find it used, but I'm a book snob and I wanted it new because I let someone borrow my original copy and it disappeared.
Got tagged.
So thank you, everyone. Much appreciated. Again, we're going to do this in 2 weeks. So it'll be a different topic. We'll post that topic tomorrow. There is a schedule that you can look at and kind of see what the upcoming topics are. Other than that, thank you, everyone. Stay kinky and keep being awesome.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Vista.
everybody.
Bye.